6.2, multiplication and division of rational expressions. This begins on page 198. Question 1. Fill in the blanks to make the statement true. If a over b and c over d are polynomials with b and d not equal to 0, then a over b times c over d equals, well, this is fractions. With fractions, you just multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms. So this is going to equal ac divided by bd. B, if a over b and c over d are polynomials with b and c and d not equal to 0, then a over b divided by c over d equals, well, fraction rules. When you're dividing by the fractions, say we have 2/3 divided by 1/2, you take the inverse of the second one. So 2/3 times 2/1. So you'll have to take the inverse of the second fraction. So we're going to do the same thing here. Take the inverse and multiply by the inverse. So it's going to give us AD divided by or over BC. The something of x minus y over x plus y is x plus y over x minus y. Well, I see it's flipped, so that's taking the inverse or the reciprocal. Both would work. D. To multiply two rational expressions, the numerator and denominator are written as a single expression. Then you need to simplify each expression. E. To divide two rational expressions, the problem is rewritten as the product of the dividend and the reciprocal of the divisor. Question 2. Multiply. Simplify answers if possible. Assume the denominators do not equal 0. D. 8x minus 24 over 3x plus 9 times, remember that dot means the times, 4x plus 12 divided by 6x minus 18. Well, remember our first step is to write as a single expression. Our second step would be to simplify. And really, if you can put it in factored form, it's much easier to simplify it. So write it as a single expression. So times the tops. Times the bottoms. It is tempting to FOIL it here, but I don't think that will make it the easiest. Remember, when we factor it, then hopefully we can divide by the different terms and have parts of it equal 1, which will make it a lot easier. So let's factor it first. We can factor out an 8 from the first two here, x minus 3. 4x plus 12, we can factor out a 4. Okay, let's do the denominator. We can factor out a 3. And from the last one here, we could factor out 6. I'm not even going to multiply the numbers together right now. Let's see here. We have x minus 3 divided by x minus 3, that equals 1. X plus 3 divided by x plus 3 equals 1. 4 and 6, those are both even numbers. I'm going to divide both of them by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. I think that's all I can reduce right now. Let's write down what we have left over at the top. In the numerator, we have 8 times 2. The denominator is 3 times 3. 8 times 2 is 16. 3 times 3 is 9. 2p. Z squared minus 9z plus 18 over 4z squared minus 9 times 2z squared minus 5z minus 12 over z squared minus 10z plus 24. This looks complicated. However, all we need to do is write it as a single expression, simplify, hopefully using factors. Chances are things will cancel out and it'll be a lot easier. Let's first of all factor z squared minus 9z plus 18, so two numbers that multiply to 18 and add to negative 9. So negative 3 and negative 6. Now we're multiplying by 2z squared minus 5z minus 12, so let's do a box for that one. Factors of 2 and factors of 12. Okay, so let's just do the work on the side here. Factor the first two terms. Factor the last two terms. Okay, so those are our factors. Z minus 4 times 2z plus 3. Let's factor the denominators. 4z squared minus 9, that's the difference of squares. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. Switch the signs. Z squared minus 10z plus 24. Two numbers that multiply to 24 and add to negative 10. Negative 6 and negative 4. Okay, so now let's look at this and see if there's anything that cancels out. Z minus 3, no, we don't have one of those in the denominator. Z minus 6, yes, we have one of those in the denominator. Z minus 4, yes, we have one of those as well. 2z plus 3, yes, we have one of those as well. So we have z minus 3 over 2z minus 3. 3f, divide. Simplify answers if possible. Assume the denominators do not equal 0. F, y squared plus 3y over 9 divided by y plus 3 over 3y. Now remember, when we're dividing by a fraction, you take the inverse of the second fraction. So let's rewrite this as a multiplication. So when we're dividing, the first step is to write as a multiplication. Second step, write as a single expression. Third step, simplify. Much easier with the factors. This is the same as with your multiplication. We just have one extra step, which is right at the beginning. So instead of the divide by sign, I'm going to multiply by the inverse. I just flip it, take the reciprocal. Now I can write it as a single expression. I'm going to also try to factor this. Okay, y squared plus 3y. From that I can take out, or I can factor out a y. And then my 3y is just going to be 3y. 9, it's just going to be a 9 times y plus 3. Is there anything the same? Numerator, I have a y, none at the denominator, y plus 3 over y plus 3. 3y is not in the denominator, so that's all I can do. So I have y times 3y over 9. I can reduce this a little bit more. I have 3 over 9. So I can divide the top and bottom by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. I divided by 3 is 3. So my answer is going to be y times y is y squared over 3. 3i, 4a squared minus ab minus 5b squared over ax plus by plus ay plus bx divided by 4a minus 8b. The first thing we need to do is change the division into a multiplication by taking the reciprocal of the second fraction. So multiplication. Now remember, this is over 1. So when I take the reciprocal, it's going to be 1 over. All right, let's do some factoring. Our first thing to factor is 4a squared minus ab minus 5b squared. Let's do our box method. Okay, we'll factor this. Now we're timesing the numerator by 1, so we're done with our numerator. Let's factor the denominator. Okay, I'm looking at this and it looks like if I put my, well, I can either put my a's together, my b's together, or my x's together and my y's together. I'm going to put my x and y's together. So let's just rewrite this. My x's are together and then my y's are together. I think I'll put my ay first. Factor it. So I'll write that in. How about 4a minus 8b? For this one, we can factor out a 4. Is there anything that's the same on the top and the bottom that we can now reduce? A plus b over a plus b equals 1. 4a minus 5, no, we don't have that in the denominator, so that's all we can do. So our answer is going to be 4a minus 5 divided by x plus y, 4 in front, a minus 2b. 3t. Did you notice this whole lesson only had 3 questions? X minus 8 over x minus 4 divided by x squared minus 12x plus 32 over 8x times x squared minus 8x over x squared minus 8x plus 16. Wow, that is a long one. Our first step is to write everything as a multiplication. I'm going to write the stuff inside the brackets first. And really, you have a choice. You can simplify the stuff in the brackets, like factor it first, and then take the reciprocal, or you can take the reciprocal first. I like doing it first. I just don't like having to write that divide by sign. So I'm going to multiply it by. Okay, so everything on the bottom is going to go to the top. So 8x times x squared minus 8x plus 16. And everything that was on the top goes to the bottom. I'm going to use brackets, so don't forget it's multiplied. X squared minus 12x plus 32 times x squared minus 8x. Might as well put these in brackets as well. Okay, let's factor. Those are already factored. X squared minus 8x plus 16. Two numbers that multiply to 16 and add to negative 8. Negative 4, negative 4. X minus 4 is already factored. Two numbers that multiply to 32 and add to negative 12. Minus 8 and minus 4. And x squared minus 8x, we can factor out an x. And you get x minus 8. So everything is factored. They're all inside wonderful little brackets. Let's see if anything can be reduced. X minus 8 on the top. Yes, there is 1 on the bottom. There is 2, but you can only factor 1 at a time, or you can only reduce 1 at a time. So 8x minus 8 divided by x minus 8 is 1. 8x. We have an x though. Let's reduce those x's. So x divided by x equals 1. X minus 4 divided by x minus 4 equals 1. X minus 4 divided by x minus 4 equals 1. In the numerator, we have 1 times 8. 1 times 8 is 8. Denominator, we still have an x minus 8. And that scary question ended up really being okay after factoring.